What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another live broadcast of the Engadget podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devendra Hardwar, and today I'm joined with Deputy Editor Shalin Lowe. Hey, Shalin. We've got a big pile of folks here. We've got Ben Ellman, our podcast producer, in the bottom right, and below, special guest, first-time guest, Cherie L. Smith, Editor-in-Chief of Laptop Mag. Hello, Cherie.
Hello.
Hello, Cherie, with her cat ear headphones. Let's say hi, chat room, and let's say hi to everybody in the chat room who's joining us.
We got Buckley with many U's. We've got Jiming Chung as usual, Daniel Diaz, Ibrahim Safwa, Idios, Michael Coley, Kenny Holland. I don't know who this Ben Ellman is. Declan Flynn, Shafik Ferdows, Maximo Zarzuelo, Fines, Kiko, CF 542, Amar.
People from all
Y'all
over
wait
the
till I
world.
say your names before you get your hellos in too. This is we make him a life hard, but hi to Ruindig as well. A lot of our
everybody. Shafik's from Malaysia. Hello.
Yeah, we've got Malaysia. We've got
from the Philippines.
Selamat datang, Shafik. Selamat malam as well. From Malaysia.
From Malaysia. They're like your neighbor, Shalin, right?
They are, and I just read a really funny article about Singaporean curry, and how like we've been fighting with Malaysia for the title to Malaysian curry for a long time.
Yeah.
And like,
my from what I've tasted, I'm sorry, Malaysia wins. Sorry, Shalin.
I mean, look.
Everybody has different kinds of
I love
curry.
them all.
Curry is like what I love about curry is that it is everywhere. You go to
It's so
Jamaica, you go to
global.
the Caribbean, where my family's from too, and like you can see the curry that came from India and gets mixed in with so many different things. It's all good.
We got people saying hi to Cherie. Albert Aiden is here. Cherie
Hello.
saying hi to you. Jiming Chong also said hi. Gonzalo Costa. So yeah, no. I will. You can talk about Malaysian food forever.
We can just talk about food, please.
Food.
I think Sherlyn and I just need to do a food cast, and we'll put the microphone like right on the table as we start.
Do not tempt me with this, Devendra.
Special edition
yeah,
Engadget mukbang.
That's what we all miss from our Computex shows. So, oh man,
Computex.
Yeah, my heart. So, folks, we'll be chatting about the 13-inch MacBook Pro. Reviews just went up. My review went up. Cherie has a review. We will be diving into all that stuff and why I think it's a kind of a weird computer, even though it's still pretty fast. Are we good to go, everybody?
Yes. Declan Flynn says last day of school here for the kids. Not sure if it's the same elsewhere. I just looked up.
That's bad news. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Declan Flynn said great headphones. So yes, great headphones. We love them.
I just looked up the last day of school for the district that I went to, and it's on Friday, which feels late somehow.
I feel like sometimes,
But then again, like
early June.
Devendra, now that you're living in Georgia, like don't they start school like in like mid-August or something?
I don't have to worry about that yet.
Kids aren't old enough for that yet.
Not yet. Maybe next year. But yeah, my heart goes out. As a kid, it's like everybody loves summer. As a parent, I'm like, oh my god, the kids are going to be home all day. What do we do with them? Okay, I think we're good to go.
Yes, Albert Aiden
I'm
says
locally
that the Engadget mukbang could be branded as Engadget Eats TM. Okay, so last thing that we're gonna do is, like, we're already recording on our side, but it helps to sync up the files. I know the chat loves to clap, so I'm gonna count down from 3. At the end of 3, Devendra, Sherlyn, I, and Cherie will all clap or snap our fingers or whatever just to get a sync on the files. And you too, chat, can clap if you believe. Make it a good show for us and give us some support. So, counting down from 3, 2, 1. Okay, a little bit of silence. I'll let you know when the silence is over. Just long enough to make it awkward, but we're ready. Let's go.
All right, let's go.
I don't know about y'all, but I hold my breath when we're holding the silence.
We should just compete
Ben
with that.
was literally trying to murder me anyway.
I try to make people,
I was trying to drown you in air.
Okay, and as usual, folks, if you're new here, we're going to be recording the audio show. We'll do some Q&A in between segments, and Ben will be keeping an eye out for comments, but we probably won't be able to chat with you directly during the show, unless somebody says something amazing, so we'll see. Okay. Let's go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, Internet, and welcome back to the Engadget Podcast. I'm Senior Editor Devendra Hardawar.
I'm Deputy Editor Sherlyn Lowe.
This week, it is all about the 13-inch MacBook Pro with an M2 chip, a computer I just called absolutely baffling in my review. So our reviews are up. We're going to be diving into all of that. That laugh you hear is Cherie L. Smith from Laptop Mag, Editor-in-Chief of Laptop Mag. Hello, Cherie.
Hello.
Hello. We will get into that just soon. We'll get right to that. But first, let me tell you guys what you can do for the show. We'll get right to that. But first, as always, folks, you can subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. If you're digging the show, please leave us a review on iTunes. That's always super helpful. Drop us an email at podcast@engadget.com. And if you're listening to this, you can always join us Thursday mornings, typically around 10 a.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel for a live stream. You can see our pretty faces. You can have some Q&A. Sometimes we'll show off gadgets. It's a fun time. Come join us. Okay, so the 13-inch MacBook Pro with an M2 chip. I found this computer to be very, very confusing when Apple first announced it, because it's literally the last MacBook Pro, which was not that different than the last other few MacBook Pros, like same case. The last one actually lost 2 USB-C ports as well, right? So I found this really confusing. Cherie, what was your first impression of this computer when Apple announced it?
I mean, it's a MacBook.
Bro?
It's doing what it's supposed to do in terms of being an incremental upgrade. It's not that it's a bad laptop. That's not it at all. It performs very well. It's just, I would agree with your word baffling, because like you have the Air and it's fanless and it's doing the same thing, and it's a tad bit cheaper with a better screen, better display, better webcam, MagSafe charging now, and then we got the Pro.
It's just so confusing. Yeah, the new MacBook Air, which also has an M2 chip, has all those nice things. It's a nice newer design. It's a little thinner. The screen, they kind of shaved off some of those bezels, whereas this one has the old thick bezels, which I think really dates this computer. The
bezels. I dinged it for the bezels. Like it's the year of our Lord 2022, and I do not understand what is going on with the bezels. Like where everyone is trying to shave every little millimeter off. Apple's like, nah. And you know why? Because they know you're going to buy it. They don't like it takes years and years and years of being a squeaky wheel to get Apple to move on the slightest design change. So we're going to be saying this for a few more years at least, and then they'll cut it down a scooch.
A scooch.
I think this is a courage for Apple, don't you think?
What's the opposite of courage is laziness. And I think what I dinged this computer for, which to be fair, it is perfectly fine. Like it is a nice computer. It is faster than the last MacBook Pro. The M2 chip is a decent upgrade. If somebody stumbles into an Apple store and buys this, it's fine. I think I'm just a little annoyed because every time I talk to Apple about this, just to get a straight answer about why they didn't do anything for this design, they put on this like robotic smile, and it's the same script line from every single person. We think it produces a lot of value. Sure, Apple, I'm sure it produces a lot of value for you. I don't think it's producing a lot of value for consumers who are expecting, thinner bezels, more modern screens or bigger screens in their 13-inch machines right now. So let's talk about what happened here, right? They just put the M2 chip in the last case. That's it. So that means it's the same Retina display. That means it's the same thick bezels. That means it still only has 2 USB-C ports, one of which will disappear when you're charging this computer too. I just found that all very strange compared to the new Air, which has so many more features and is going to be slightly cheaper to begin with. The one big benefit, which is worth shouting out here, is just like last time, this new MacBook Pro has a fan, right? It has active cooling and a more elaborate cooling system. So if you're doing video rendering or 3D editing or something, it should be better for sustained workloads. But I think for 90% of people, my argument is the MacBook Air, even if you're some sort of professional, will serve you better. Or if you really need professional like stuff, go up to the MacBook Pro 14-inch, which starts a lot more expensive. But I noticed this when I was like speccing it out. If you put both computers up to 16 gigabytes of RAM, a terabyte of storage, like the bare minimum of what you'd want in a professional machine, the price difference is only $300, which at that point seems ridiculous. Like then just get the 14, right? What do you think, Cherie?
I mean, the reason for the Pro at this point is to push people to buy the Air or the 14 or the 16 inch. It's a nice to have. Like if you like, it's kind. You know what it reminds me of? It's like when Apple makes the SE, or they make the what will be the iPhone 14. You get all the colors and things of that nature with the 14. If you want the premium, you you lose color, you gain features. Like the Pro is the colorful iPhone. It
should be priced accordingly, though, right? It should be like 800 or 900 bucks. Like I like the SE because it's a budget phone, it's a budget entry point for a lot of people into the world of iPhone. This is, hey, more expensive than the Air, right? This is a premium product with very more limited functionality than some of the cheaper products. So that's why I'm really confused by it.
I mean, it's calculated capitalism. Like basically, if like we're here to tell our readers and our listeners and what have you, hey, this is a solid laptop, and it is. But for the money, you either want to go this way or that way.
Yeah,
it's calculated capitalism at its best.
That's a good way of putting it. Sherlyn, like, any thoughts on this thing? Like, you were there, you tested the new Air, and you really like that, right?
Well, you know.
Wow.
First of all,
I'm sorry there's no Android laptop for you to test instead. Jeez.
Listen, first of all, I'm a PC person, so that's already my exactly. Thank you, Cherie. I already, have a slight bias in that respect. But my question here too is that, like, for this review, the 13-inch MacBook Pro with M2, the newsworthiness of it, I had to come at this from the journalist point of view here, which is that this is our first experience of the M2 chip, right? How did that do? I mean, that's my main question, is also like, how I don't care that much about the 13-inch MacBook Pro hardware, casing, that sort of thing, because I know it's boring. It's not really doing anything great. But the M2 chip, this is our first taste of it. What's it do for battery life? I know we can't compare to the MacBook Air, but I wonder if that's one of the differences between it and the MacBook Air as well, right?
You go for it, Cherie.
The M2, it did what Apple said it's going to do. If Apple, like, at this point, to doubt Apple is you're just I have a bridge I can sell you in Brooklyn. It's definitely faster, more powerful, all the things, more power efficient than the M2, because a lot of people were upset, like, okay,
then the old M1,
like it's only supposed to be better than the M1. You got it's calculated capitalism. We still have a 14 and a 16 to refresh, and are we going to give you this? We're going to give you the same M2? No, we're going to give you the M2 Max and the M2 Max Pro. This is how they get you. So it passed the assignment. It's giving what it's supposed to give. The math, she is mathing, because this is exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be better than M1. It is not supposed to be better than M1 Max and M1 Max Pro.
It's not, too. Like, if you look at our benchmarks, I put up a benchmark table in my review. The M1 Pro, the M1 Ultra, and the Max, I forget which is Ultra the fastest now. But I think
Ultra is a name we made up. Pro Max.
Because like then they started soldering chips together. Like, hey dog, I heard you like chips. Let me solder two of them together. And
now give you some chips with your chips.
Yeah. No, the M1 Ultra is the one that's in the studio, right? The fastest one. But in my benchmarks, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, certainly, even the M1 Pro is a lot faster than the M2. Like, clearly, this is focused on this side of the market where $1,000 to $1,500, like, people getting computers around there. It's faster. Battery life is pretty solid. I got like 17 hours in my test, which is a little more than last time. Did you like have any major revelations with this chip, Tree?
For us, the battery test went up significantly. We have, our script is basically web surfing continuously over Wi-Fi.
I know that script.
I know you do, baby. And we got 18 hours and 20 minutes. The last iteration got 1644, I want to say off the top of my head. So like
Mhm.
definitely a big jump, and like we definitely saw the M2 kick the M1's butt in benchmarks. I'm going to do a deeper dive on the other chips this week, so I'm not even going to touch that, but I already knew, like, it's not designed to be better than the other two chips. That otherwise, why would you buy the other two systems?
A lot of people are coming at me saying, like, I feel, should I buy a 14-inch MacBook Pro now or a 16-inch? And I'm telling people, yes. Those are still faster, even if they're M1 expanded chips. One thing I will mention here is when I last reviewed the M1 MacBook Air and Pro, they benchmarked exactly the same, right? It is the exact same chip. The only difference is sustained workload. So if you're doing a lot of video editing, something that takes a long time to render, at that point, the MacBook Pro's fans will kick in and give you more speed, whereas the Air may start to throttle. We don't have the new Air to test yet, but I think we're probably going to see the same thing. Like Apple managed to do that 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. So we'll likely be the same thing now. Like Cherie, for yourself, you do some pro work too. Like you do a lot of different work. Would you still lean towards the Air versus this one?
I am on a never-ending pursuit for power, so I am
as we all are. Yeah, that's why we do this. Yeah,
I personally would, if I was working specifically on a Mac, which I do in my professional life, I would either wait for the 14 or the 16 to get refreshed. If I absolutely positively could not hold out, then I would get the 13 Pro, just because I have things that are like video editing and photo editing and things of that nature to do. But man, I would hate spending that much. Like,
I don't want to give them the satisfaction. I don't want to say
I would hate spending that money, and I hate spending that money on a Mac, period, because I game. I am platform agnostic, and while I am very, very intrigued to see this Resi 8 playthrough, I'm curious what Capcom had to do to fit it in the box, and what other games are they going to offer? Because honestly, and the demo that I saw in my house, because maybe it was better in Cupertino and it was running smoother, it looks mighty choppy.
It was really choppy, yeah.
And it's I don't know if I would have shown this, fellas.
I ran 3D Mark. Like, it's not that this chip doesn't have 3D capabilities. It's the developers, right? Like, people just don't want to bring big budget games to Macs, and that is Apple's fault. That is Apple's fault.
It absolutely is.
Having,
It's like, okay, don't tell me it can game. How many times do you expect me to play Shadow the Tomb Raider?
Exactly.
How many times?
That is my one benchmark, is Shadow the Tomb Raider.
You can't even say Fortnite because you're beefing with Epic. You're not friends with GOG. You're not like, where are these games? And don't tell me Apple Arcade. No one wants to hear that.
Don't say Apple Arcade, because an iPad can play all the Apple Arcade games.
Yeah,
so
no one wants that.
That doesn't count for anything. It is. I like Apple Arcade. I like on my phone. I like on tablets. On a computer, seems less good. One thing I want to point out here too that I noticed in my review, I think this is the only Pro labeled device from Apple without a ProMotion screen. I think that thing also really gets to me. ProMotion gives you a higher refresh rate. It makes scrolling a lot smoother. Everything looks nicer. I'm spoiled by ProMotion screens. I jumped up to the iPhone 13 Pro just for that. I would like an iPad Pro eventually, but we're seeing that on Windows laptops too, right? The Surface Laptop Studio has high refresh rates. We've reviewed a lot of like gaming laptops I think are really subtle that would make nice productivity machines like this too, like the Asus G14, Zephyrus G14. We did the Acer Predator Triton 500 SE. Both, like, there are a lot of gaming machines now that aren't as flashy, aren't as like blingy and embarrassing as old gaming machines. I would much rather have one of those than something like this, right?
I mean, I'm going to be a adult for life, and I'm never going to say no. Give me my hair. Look at my hair. My hair is blue,
babe.
Adult and blue. Like I will take all the RGB all the time and be proud of it in the office. But like again, adult. But I can appreciate an understated system. There is an elegance, and I mean. That's why it's so hard for Apple to change up the design, no matter how many times we scream and beg and plead, because they are literally the trendsetter. We saw all these funky designs, and Apple just stuck with what simplicity. and minimalism, and now when you go into a coffee shop or wherever, like all you see is that silver or space gray or maybe rose gold if you lucked up and got one of those models, and just that Apple. Like there's
just
a
Apple,
there's
or
a
you see
reason.
Asus machines that are really trying to ape that style too, or at least they were for a while. Not as much now, I think, but yeah.
I know we're talking around this. We're sort of getting at it. I also had this question earlier on, which is that like, what's the gaming experience like on the MacBook Pro 13-inch with M2? But I think a question here is more that like, are the chips capable? Like, I get that there's platform issues. I get that there's not a lot of games, but do you guys think that like the system itself can handle big games?
I was saying that a bit, right? But like I ran the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark. One of the benchmarks showed up in our video and looked really low frame rates, but if you do it at 1080p with like, medium settings, it gets over 30 FPS. They're capable. These things can run games as well as many like budget gaming laptops, I think, like with budget GPUs. So it's not the hardware really that's the problem. It is Apple never making an ecosystem that was inviting for developers to make games. That's the thing. Like Apple never cared about games. Steve Jobs, this goes back to the Steve Jobs era, right? Like he never really leaned too much on games. So yeah, they got Apple Arcade. There are some Steam games, especially like simpler games like Disco Elysium, that will run on Macs. So that's fine. Nothing too demanding though, aside from like Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Hitman 1 for some reason. So a bunch of older games. I hope that changes, especially with like the Capcom announcements. So I would never recommend any of these for gaming. Yeah.
We also had one question from a very eager live chat member, which is how is the video editing? I know that part of our testing process is doing some kind of 4K video converting, right? Devendra, how'd that go?
I mean, it's fine. It's faster than the M1. Like I do a handbrake video conversion. I don't do like a big video editing. Like I don't do a lot of video editing.
Layers of tile animation. Yeah, we don't do that. Yeah.
But the handbrake's fine. Like I'm talking raw computing power. We see that this is a good chip. I am just saying my main argument, the reason why we gave it a score of an 81, which is a bit lower than the last MacBook Pro and lower than most laptops, is because I don't agree with the value Apple is providing here. I think it's a real issue that this thing has all the problems of the last model that came out a year and a half ago. So me and Terrence O'Brien, our editor, we were just like, this thing, you shouldn't really be buying this thing, right? We would not recommend you buy this thing. If you're a consumer looking for a new MacBook, I would say lean Air. If you're a professional that really needs a new computer right now, spec up the MacBook Pro 14-inch. Like it will not be that much different, and it will be much better for you in the long run.
Or wait for the next
you could wait. I mean, you could wait, but you don't know. You don't know.
Yeah, I would recommend waiting. If it's like that, just wait. Like because honestly, there is no worse feeling, at least for me, than when I buy something and then like a couple months later it's obsolete. I mean, like can I get a full year of it being like top of the top before you're like, oh, by the way.
It seems like Apple's almost on like a 6-month cycle. So it is June. It's the end of June now. So we probably won't get new MacBook Pros 14 and 16s until late fall, maybe winter, based on when the last ones launch. And it's like, if you need to work right now, like our podcast,
if your current machine isn't serving
you, was running a 2012 MacBook Pro, you just need a machine now. You sometimes need it.
Can we pause for a second, because my chiropractor, bless his heart, asked me the other day, he was like, does the MacBook Air have a CD-ROM drive? I was like, mother, what?
That's adorable.
You know what?
Cute.
So cute.
If you say that, but Laptop Mag, we have a best page, best laptops with DVR. I mean, I forgot how to say DVD drives. It's been so long, but it does so well. Like, and
no, I think.
And someone sent me a CD yesterday, and I was baffled. Like, where am I supposed to put?
What do I do with this?
Like, am I putting I have desktops? I don't even have. Like, where? Like, am I supposed to put this in a PlayStation or my Xbox?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I have a mid-tower desktop sitting right here. It's like full rows instead of a CD-ROM up front. It is just like 3 fans. It's just like, I need
That's
airflow.
awesome.
I don't need optical discs. I will say for people, if you need a CD drive, don't buy a computer around that. Get a little external beauty and just like tote that around with you. It's fine. Yeah.
The point I was going to make though is if your machine is that old, then maybe I guess a 13-inch MacBook Pro with M2 will feel like an upgrade. And also if you have a specific need like a CD-ROM drive, maybe it's time to, like what Devendra said, buy an external accessory that can last you regardless of how your machine performs in future, hopefully.
I see a question here from Ben. How much faster was the video conversion on this computer compared to the M1? It was like I have to look up the exact numbers, but it was like 10 to 15 seconds. So it's like a decent chunk. It is decently faster.
Well, that's quite a bit.
And it also has ProRes encoding and decoding capability. So hey, if you're doing pro stuff, sure, this may be a better computer for you. But again, if you really need ProRes, then wait until the 14-inch and 16-inch get upgraded, because those computers will last you a much longer time. I think that's about it. Anything else, Cherie, that you want to mention about this computer? Like any broad takeaways for you when it comes to this or Apple in general?
I mean, it's a MacBook. And you get what you pay for with this MacBook. Like, you get the M2 chip. That's basically why you're here. You're not getting a better display. The display is still Retina. It's still beautiful. Devendra is right. It's missing ProMotion, and that is a bummer. Like, it didn't get the 1080p webcam.
Camera.
It still got those chunky. It's still very much the MacBook 13-inch that you knew and loved, or felt kind of ambivalent about. I don't know. It's.
Don't worry about the webcam, because you can always strap your phone onto the top of it.
Continuity camera.
Continuity camera. I want to test that. It looks ridiculous, but I kind of want to test it. Yeah, it'll be better than whatever Apple's offering here. So, Cherie, first of all, I want to say, people, if you want to read more about our thoughts on these computers, check out Cherie's review over at Laptop Mag. Check out my review over at Engadget. We have a video too on our YouTube channel. Did you guys do a video, Cherie, or are you just like?
We're going to. Like, I have many thoughts, and I have a few face-offs to write before I really get into, because I feel like I have things to say.
Things to say. Okay, Cherie, where can we find you on the internet these days?
You can always find me on Twitter or Instagram at Miss Smith 11. So MISS Smith. So 3 S's, not 2, not 4, but 3 S's 11. And as always, check out myself and my talented staff on Laptop Mag. Some things that are coming down the pipe: Tech Support Showdown and our first annual Ultimate Home Office Awards. And then we're going right in the best and worst brands and a few other big ticket projects. So we are rocking and rolling.
Awesome. Love to see you thrive. And Cherie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having.
Okay, let's take a pause here. Cherie, take your local audio. Cherie. Yeah, take your local audio and just shoot that. You could drop it in a folder somewhere and just send the link to Ben.
Yeah, okay. So you can put it on Google Drive or whatever. It would be preferred if you exported it as a mono file rather than a stereo file.
Okay, yeah, got it.
That was a fun chat.
CF542 had a question in the chat. Could it be that the rumored 15-inch Air will come along soon and replace this MacBook Pro, and Apple shifts the Pro moniker to the upper models?
I don't know. Because it still wouldn't have active cooling, most likely. If they can do fanless on a 13-inch, they're definitely going to go fanless on a 50-inch. But who knows? There is this like weird price gap, right, that Apple has, like between $1,200 and $2,000, and that is what this thing is kind of supposed to solve. I think the 14 should be cheaper, to be honest. Like the 14 should be starting at like 16 to 1800, and that would it'll come down in price over time. So that should make this better, but who knows? Like Apple likes these pricing stratifications too. Yeah. They want you to go straight to $2,000.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Or $3,000.
Yep.
Nitesh Mystery says, I think with this M2 MacBook Pro, they didn't bother with the redesign because they again believe the Apple is releasing the rumored 15-inch MacBook Air to replace it, which is supposed to come next year. Sure, we don't know. I mean,
I don't think it would be a replacement. Like, is the thing, but
they're turning into Samsung with their laptops. But yeah, we got a lot of love for your headphones, Cherie. Dude, Carly also love them. I kind of want them.
So we've got a few banked comments from the chat. Remember,
Cherie, you want to join for the Q&A for a bit? You can drop whenever you need to.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we'll do some Q&A.
Okay, yes, because we don't like talking directly to chat during the segments because then
It
you're
gets
listening to
confusing.
you're listening
Yeah.
to the audio podcast and you're like, damn, I wish I was like there.
Although we kind of want that too, so it's good to bring in one or two. Be like,
Yeah,
hey,
it's
join us.
that's why we
Yeah,
bring in a
yeah,
little bit
true.
of it sometimes
Thursdays.
too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one comment from user, I'm going to say that it's Felixian is how you pronounce it. Easy explanation for the state of the situation with the 13-inch MacBook Pro, COVID and supply chains.
Yeah.
I think you're
yeah.
possibly. I think you're being a little bit too charitable to Apple, but
It's a
that's
lot of
definitely
things.
part of it.
Yeah, COVID would slow down production, and also, yeah, the supply chain issues that we've talked about. I mentioned this in my review. It seems like Apple really wanted to focus on the Air, which I think is a faster selling computer because it's cheaper. And then for pros, they're better served with the 14-inch and the 16-inch. So this is like a weird nebulous zone. I don't know. They say this is one of their best-selling laptops, so I don't know. I think they wanted to up the price. They wanted people who would typically buy this to go straight to the 14.
Absolutely.
But I also don't really understand, like, why does it still have the touch bar? It really is just like an old case.
We got all these touch bars here. People don't want them.
We bought the touch bars in bulk, so we gotta use them.
I went to Costco. I got the bulk touch bars. Got to put them somewhere. We didn't even get into that, but God, do I hate the touch bar.
I was gonna say the touch bar.
Does anyone use it? I have never seen. I've like, and as someone who likes extra screens, because I mean I love it. I love what Asus is doing with their Duo series. It speaks to me. Like I'm waiting for the day where they're going to let you detach the smaller screen, like a little, like even though it will technically make it into a tablet, which I do not believe in as a technology. I also do not acknowledge Chromebooks.
High five. Like this is my constant joke about Chromebooks.
You know that I have never been down for the Chromebook.
I know, but your website has a whole section about Chromebooks.
I know.
We're staffers.
It is not a secret that I do not believe in them. And
Chromebooks are quote unquote computers. Sorry,
I think Lisa was the one who reviewed all of them for us.
Yes, and I have other people. Like I do not. I just don't. Yeah. And it is very much an old woman screaming at clouds thing. It's just girl. I do not want to learn another OS. I don't want like
it's not much to learn.
You're just learning Chrome at that point. You're just learning the web browser.
I just don't want it.
Yeah.
I hear you. It's just not powerful. I think it's just not powerful enough for me. But
we should say some things about the touch bar.
I don't see the point of paying $1,000 for a Chromebook.
You should never pay $1,000 for a Chromebook. They should be cheap. They should all be under $500.
Okay, so hold up. Do you want to drop in like?
Let me just do a bit here, Cherie. We won't have your audio for this, but I'll just drop in something here because it is worth saying. Another thing. This computer has the touch bar. And I can't remember ever liking it. This is the only computer with the touch bar. It's like Apple had a whole bunch of old stock that they just had to dump this into. I don't want my function keys to disappear. I don't want my shortcuts to change every time I move to a different app. It is dumb. It's annoying. And it should tell you something that all the other MacBooks don't have a touch bar. They just have function keys and shortcut keys all in one place because that's how we use keyboards. So touch bar, bad idea. Another knock against this computer.
Okay, I'll find a place to drop that in.
Thank you.
Once again, the only real cool use for the touch bar that I've ever seen is a little free app called Sampler. That's spelled SAMPLR. It allows you to like make little loops. Since it's the multi-touch bar, you can stretch your fingers over a waveform and it will loop on there. And it doesn't even, I don't know if it integrates with something like Pro Tools or Ableton or something like that, but even if you use that and there's just like a little UI to like export that loop, then you can put that into your audio workstation of choice.
I do know that like video editing apps and stuff use a touch bar to let you like scrub through the timeline sometimes too. So that is useful, but at the end of the day, I hate that thing. I hate looking at it. I think it should go away. It's still here. Anything else from the chat that we want to?
Yes. So we've got one user, Goalie Union, the sacred union between football goalies, converting to Mac here, still kind of in between the M1 Pro 14-inch and the M2 Air. Wish the Air had the screen of Pros. So what do we think here?
What is your priority? Like, I would say, what are your priorities if you want fast refresh rate, if you want promotion, if you need power for video editing, if you need to do serious work? I would advise against the Air, just because that thing is fanless. It will throttle speeds if you're like pounding that CPU. So if you need to video edit, if you need to like do video streams and stuff too, you probably should go Pro. What do you think?
Pro,
Go Pro.
I'm in agreement. Like I'm a power user. I want power regardless. That's what matters for me. Like overweight, oversized, like give me all the power. Like for me, my sweet spot is, I guess now it's the 16-inch, since the 15-inch is slowly going away. Like,
I mean, it's gone. Yeah.
Like it's somewhere between the 14 and the 16. I've got to choose a new.
The 16-inch is like, and you have the 16 now, Ben, right?
I do.
Like,
yes, I have the 16-inch M1 Pro.
It is beautiful. Like, just opening up a laptop that's that thin with such a big screen. Every time I was testing it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. It's not that heavy. You got options. People. Dude named Charlie says he feels bad for somebody who has to review Chromebooks, and you know what? I feel bad for them too.
As do
Listen, it's not me. As long as
I mean, to be honest, they're an easy review because there's not much that you can test.
Yeah, exactly.
How fast does it browse the web? Yeah.
Somehow the Engadget podcast always comes back to this idea of like finding very creative ways to bully Sherlyn.
Bully Sherlyn, but also bully Chromebooks. I just want to bully all the Chromebooks. If Nathan Ingram was here, we would just be clowning on him.
It is
for
more
his
a
Chromebook
Nate thing
one.
than it is
It's
me.
more
I like Chromebooks because I think I like Chrome.
They should be cheap.
Yeah.
Hey, Chromebooks in the classrooms. Yes,
I like
great.
Chrome
Cheap
too.
laptop.
Like if you could see my screen, like I have Google
hon.
Chrome up, and there are 1,000 tabs open. My poor work MacBook is about to tap out. Like I need memory. What are you doing to me? But I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't.
Yeah. Hey,
okay, I think
power users
we
do
might
not need a Chromebook. Yeah.
We might have time for one more comment, so I'm going to try to say some of my own thing and then integrate a comment from CF542. CF542 says that Apple's naming of their CPUs is fundamentally flawed and confusing. Intel did a better job with i3, i5, i7 because it gets confusing. You have the M1, the M1 Pro, the M1 Pro Max, the M1 Ultra now.
Yep. Agreed.
Now M2. Okay.
Yep.
But now that we're talking about all of the different lines, including the new M2, so M2 is better than just the M1 Classic that only existed in
the
MacBook Air,
the MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini. Yeah.
Where does the M2 sit against M1 Pro? I know
it's
that
slower.
The M2.
I mentioned that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's slower. Like the M1 Pro.
It's not a match. Mac. It's not meant to be.
So it sits unfavorably against the M1 Pro, and then of course Pro Max and M1 Ultra.
You look at a direct line of all their like entry level products, I guess. So sort of like the basic MacBook Pro, the Air, everything. Once you get to the bigger laptops, and the iMac was also an M1, just a plain M1. But once you get to the more powerful products, the Studio and the MacBook Pros, then the other MacBook Pros, then you get faster.
Okay.
Cool.
And then we're going to be waiting until the fall or so when they might be doing the M2 Pro Max Ultra
as usual. Although those things were so fast, I don't know if they need to do it for fall. Like I don't know if they have to do the annual cycle thing. They could wait until next spring, to be honest, like given the cycle here, but who knows.
That would be nice because it would give me Sherry's 1 year of let me have the top dog.
You just want it for a year.
It would be nice, but I doubt but also consumerism and capitalism and the holidays are right around the corner.
And the holidays, and also we got to get this economy back in motion, everybody.
Like,
it's falling apart.
Gotta get your loved one that MacBook or whatever shiny tech.
But then a couple of months later, another 4 or 5 months later, there will be the M3. So it's like it's a constant cycle. You just got to buy it when you need it, folks. Like, unless you're a month or two away from a new product cycle, like I would not feel too bad. It's just the way we live. Cool. Anything else we want to bring up from chat?
I'm taking a quick look because there were some people. D-Man also said a lot of people are thinking M1 has just a bunch of 13-inch MacBook Pro chassis. Mentioned that. I think we might be... Pitesh Mystery says the M2 chip as a whole is a pretty good spec upgrade from the M1. Really curious to see what the Pro and Max chips will be. I'm still kind of frustrated with the gaming situation. I was saying in the chat, like, can I even play Stardew Valley on this thing?
I think you can play Stardew. Launch Steam and see what loads. But also, you have Xbox Game Cloud.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to suggest.
Just do Game Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta virtualize a PC on your Mac to play games because that's where we're at.
The irony.
Okay, I think we're all set on the MacBook segment. So, Cherie, thank you so much
free to go.
Thank you for having. I set the recording. Everyone should have it.
Yes, I think I saw that, and you were an excellent guest. I really hope we see you
so
again and often.
Yes, for sure.
Sherilyn.
Yeah, what, babes? What?
Hangout time.
Well, I know we gotta. First of all, we got a lot to talk about, but
yes, we do. I'll hit you up later. But let me go. I'm late for my own morning meeting. I need to go check in on my folks.
Say hi to everyone for me.
I most certainly will.
Bye.
All right.
I almost signed off. I almost clicked buy.
No, not you.
Not you.
We need you.
Again, just keep doing that by accident. All right, we're ready for the rest of the show.
Okay. I'll do the VR thing, and you could do MetaPay because I think you have the background for that. Okay.
Got you.
Let's move on to some other news, and I just want to quickly talk about this thing. Meta showed off a whole bunch of VR headset prototypes earlier this week because they want to pass this thing called the visual Turing test. So if you think of the Turing test as sort of like the dimension that an AI kind of has to pass to make you think it's a real person or alive, the visual Turing test is about making VR so realistic that you start to you cannot tell the difference between VR and reality, which is terrifying. But so I sat in a meeting with Mark Zuckerberg and a bunch of journalists last week talking about this stuff, and none of these are going to be products we see anytime soon, but they showed off a bunch of different prototypes that can do things like get you much higher resolutions. They can get you higher. They could get you HDR on your on the VR screen. The HDR one is a real trip. If you look at this article, the top image is just this this giant headset with 2 computer fans on the side. It has handlebars on the side because you can't wear it on your head. It's too heavy. So you have to hold it up like a pair of binoculars. But that's how they could test HDR, because you want like the brightness you get from a modern TV or computer monitor in there too. Other things like, what's up?
It looks a lot like the optometrist kind of like vision exam machine, right? Like it blows puffs in your eyes.
Speaking of that, they also want to make these things better suited for people who need vision correction, like me, people who wear glasses. They are testing holographic displays that really thin out the technology. And let me just see. Wait, what is the thing? Holocake 2 is the latest holographic one they showed off, and we have photos of Zuckerberg wearing that one. It looks like it looks like a pair of ski goggles, to be honest. And they have other prototypes doing things like electronic varifocal, so being able to adjust the focus of what you're looking at like you do in real life. So it uses eye tracking and varifocal lenses to sort of like, if in real life you have an object right in front of your face and the object at the other end of the room, your eyes will naturally adjust. Normally in VR, the display is flat, right? It is staying static. So it is hard to get that sense of eye movement and of depth. So varifocal lenses will kind of change to kind of make that happen. So they have, they have another prototype called Mirror Lake that's going to combine all these things. It has not been built yet, but Mirror Lake will be a headset that looks like ski goggles. It will have holographic lenses. It'll have HDR. It'll have a high resolution screen. This thing is not on the horizon, right? They didn't even build a working prototype yet. It is conceptual. Maybe 5 to 7 years from now, we will see a device that can actually do some of this. But it was actually interesting to see, like, you know, Meta is still working on this stuff. I think there's a lot of criticism that they're not looking at high-end VR very much. They're not pushing the envelope because they just want easy consumer-ready Quest devices. I think Zuckerberg and crew just want to be like, hey, we're doing this. It's just really hard to bring it to the public. Do you care about any of this, Sherlyn? Like, you've got a Quest. You've been testing the Quest. Do you want more?
I like the Quest. I do. Yeah, of course, I would love like VR that feels a bit more different. But I think as long as we're bound to headsets, it's going to be very difficult to push the technology a lot further. It also sounds a lot like Meta and team are being extremely ambitious with this. Like you said, right, 5 to 7 years in the future, and also the fact that they don't seem to be considering more like incremental high-end VR. They're looking at this sort of like wilder types of technology.
I mean, they're doing incremental too. Like Project Cambria is the higher end Quest we're expecting at the end of the year. So that is the more like it's getting slowly better. The Quest platform is there. This is more like swinging.
I like what we have on VR platforms, at least with the Quest right now, right? We've got, I think Supernatural is great, Beat Saber is great, but am I at the stage where I want VR to feel like the real world, like the visual Turing test? I don't know. I will say though, when you talked about the visual correction thing in real time, it just forcefully brought to mind the image of VR or just regular goggles or headsets that would just do LASIK for you at home. And that sounds incredibly dangerous. And I don't want to give anyone ideas.
No.
But please do not put LASIK
Don't do LASIK at home. Have you seen devices that do LASIK at home? That is a terrible idea.
No, they've never done, because that would never happen. I'm just saying.
It's a terrible idea. But these things, since they're glasses, if they're using the holographic screens and they can get really thin lenses, like just slipped in there, then the headset is your glasses, right? The headset has a correction that you typically get from glasses. So
you don't need
that's
to
the thing. That's kind of, you can kind of get that on Quest right now and a couple other headsets. So you just have to buy custom lenses. So anyway, I thought this was cool. Sherlyn, you had something else you want to mention?
Yeah. I mean, think about like moving from a VR that's so surreal to a VR that deals with the realities of life, namely money. Meta Pay. Have you heard of Meta Pay? It's basically Facebook Pay, and then they're going to turn it into they're rebranding it Meta Pay for one thing, and then they are going to basically use that as a way for, I guess, people to have transactions in the metaverse, which is kind of sad or I guess necessary. But I don't know. It's tied in with some of the like other news that happened this week, which is that Meta said it won't take a commission from creators on Facebook and Instagram until 2024. You saw the writing on the wall. They were going to take a commission from you anyway. So I guess we now have like a deadline, a timing. 2024 is when it's going to happen. So Facebook wants your money. It's coming hard for it. When you buy stuff in Meta, they will probably take a cut too, even though they haven't said it yet. Zuckerberg did say that Meta Pay is going to function as a universal wallet for all the digital items you buy or create in the metaverse. It's about proof of ownership. It's starting to sound a lot like crypto to me.
I mean, that is part of the whole metaverse thing, is like owning your digital assets. That could be crypto, but it doesn't have to be crypto. It could just be a wallet. It was like, hey, I own this. That's like so many things. Games do that. Other things do that. That's interesting. Do we have any other specifics about the commission? Because wasn't there talk about like a 47% commission on something?
So that was a while ago. That was like fairly recent news about a 48% cut from sales in Horizon Worlds, right? And Horizon Worlds is what tentatively for now is Meta's virtual world. 47.5% is the cut, I think, that Meta confirmed. So between 47 and 48, and then 30%.
Because, hey, if you're building something in their reality, they want to take half of it.
Expect to give half of it. That's your rent, people. Virtual realities take rent as well. I don't know, but 30% of that. Right, 30% of that will come through the MetaQuest store, and 17.5%. The remainder comes from Horizon Worlds itself. So,
have you tried Horizon Worlds, Sherlyn?
No.
Like, have you tried just wandering around AI like VR
Have you?
Stuff?
Do you like it?
I've done some of it. It is. I mean, we did some coverage too, like as they were like building this up. It's fine, but it's not like you don't want to be there, right? Like they want to build the sort of like AOL chat room experience that we all had like in the 90s, early 2000s. Like our first touch of the internet, I was like, I could chat with people all over the world and they like what I like. And that's so cool. And they're trying to force that. And I don't think people actually want to do that in VR. But there are things like VR chat that kind of get people together, but they're more open and looser. So I don't know.
So then, to be clear, too, the announcement from this week about Meta not taking commission from creators on Facebook on Instagram, it's a different situation, right? The 47.5 number was for Meta and Horizon Worlds. We're talking about like revenue sharing for creators on IG and FB.
Well,
it used to be until 2023, and they've extended that until 2024.
These are platforms people actually use too, right? So
exactly. There's actually people on
World.
there. Right, for now, well, who knows, but so it's things like paid online events, subscriptions, newsletters, and badges that you're doing your live streams, all these things that you're using the tools of Facebook and Instagram for now, you get all of the proceeds. Then in 2024 you're gonna see some of that go to Facebook. So
okay, well, we'll keep an eye out. I don't know what else to say about that. Horizon Worlds is a weird thing. I still am not sure about Facebook's metaverse or Meta's metaverse, but I do like seeing them like explore new ideas, like new ways of building these headsets, and hopefully it spurs on competition. Because my whole issue is when they gobbled up Oculus is that it would kind of kill innovation in this market, and they're at least investing some money into it. Like Zuckerberg himself is like beyond this and excited. He's into it. So I think that tells us like, he doesn't want to think about the actual issues facing Meta. He wants to like build the new thing so he can leave this planet.
It's so cool. Look at this.
Cool.
It's cool.
I just want to leave this reality where everybody's so mad at me all the time. Let's move on. Microsoft doesn't want us to be mad at them all the time because they announced that they're going to be phasing out facial recognition AI that could detect emotions. And they also announced a whole bunch of other things around the ethical usage of AI and artificial intelligence. So I think this kind of comes back to stuff we've been talking about recently, kind of all the AI stuff, the AI sentience from Google and how they were warned, the AI sentience story, because the AI is not sentient, but people warned Google about building AI that could mimic humans, right? That could have realistic conversations and that could have far-reaching social implications. And Google ignored that. And now we have people out there who think the AI may be sentient. So it seems like an issue. Yeah.
It reminds me of more than it reminds me of the Google AI story. This thing actually reminds me of when Amazon had trouble with the tone detecting feature on the Halo band, right? Because anything that says it detects emotions, I feel like this is besides portraying or pretending to have emotions. That's what we were arguing about last week. This week, this thing is about detecting emotions, and that's what tone Amazon's Halo band.
Hey, Amazon's doing a lot of questionable things. A story I was going to bring up later, but it's actually fits in really nicely here.
Yeah,
is they announced that they are developing a way to mimic voices. And the idea is to use a little bit of a recording to mimic the voices of your dead relatives. So
I'm sorry, we don't swear a lot on this show, but fuck that. Like, that's fucking bullshit. I'm sorry.
That is one company like Microsoft thinking about, ethical implications of AI. We don't want it to like look at your face too much. And Amazon's like, I want to resurrect your grandma from the dead in an echo. That's crazy. That is just wild. That it seems like an early thing that they're testing, but did
anyone that worked on this have people that passed away in their life?
Have you read a single science fiction story of how this could go wrong? Like,
no, they've seen too much Black Mirror. That's what it is. They're like,
but they've not learned. Like every Black Mirror episode is about, don't do this. This is bad. Every time you do new tech stuff. So yeah, that's not going to be a product. That is a thing they announced that they're working on. But I think if you look online right now, if you look at Twitter, everybody's looking at this story and being like, are you insane? Don't do this. Nobody wants this. Just why? Anyway, I'm glad to hear Microsoft is like thinking a little more strongly about like how it's dealing with the ethics of AI. I think more companies need to do this. I think Amazon needs like an in-house like philosopher, somebody like a human being, but also somebody who is not thinking the Amazon way, because from people I know that work at Amazon, the company really does a good job of like kind of just bullying you into thinking along their mindset. So
the group think is strong with them. Yeah,
exactly. So you need people from outside to be like, hey, this is insane. And what are you doing? It's sort of like the house alarm drone thing, which is that even launching? There are a lot of things they do that seem like bad ideas. But anyway, we will keep an eye on this and see if Amazon really does want to resurrect your people from the dead.
Yeah.
In other news, Twitter announced it wants to let you blog. Basically.
Hey, 2003 Blogspot called. It's like
it's a blog spot.
Up,
it's a
Twitter?
blogger.
Yeah.
It's a blogger site. They announced a feature called Notes that lets you write more than 280 characters. And get this, you could plug in images, you could plug in animated GIFs, and you can link to other content around the internet. You can plug in tweets and videos. Amazing, incredible innovation going on over at Twitter.
I love how with the announcement too, they were like, Twitter is the home for writers. I'm like, no, not well. You want to be the home for writers.
I mean, all the writers I know have to be on Twitter for professional reasons. So yeah,
for publication, yeah. So it's mostly like we're in the media space. Anyone that has some sort of PR need, I think that's what you're talking about.
That's book authors. Like, if you want to be in touch with people who read, Twitter is a good platform for that. Yeah.
Right. But book authors need PR. Like that's what, like everyone that has a like PR, like a recipe author, any sort of like person has a product to share, they're going to be on.
But your PR, your PR, is on Twitter. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Writers do need Twitter, sort of. And I think Twitter is kind of seeing that.
But they're not, they're trying to pull, like, they're like, no, now we're going to be your Medium and your, not Substack.
I think that's the thing, right? When Medium launched, which
WordPress.
WordPress. WordPress is great. I love WordPress because you can actually build your own sites and own your content and yada yada. WordPress is great. Medium was launched by one of the people who used to work at Twitter, right? Like one of the former Twitter executives who launched this thing. It was like, I just want to let people blog. I just want to let people write online easily. I still don't think Medium understands what it wants to be. But clearly, this is an attempt from Twitter to be like, we don't want anybody leaving, right? You stay within our wheelhouse if you want to have deeper thoughts. Twitter is where you think and write, and you are producing value for our platform, so we want to keep you here, right?
I love that in their announcement post to Twitter was like, from the rise of the screenshot announcement tweet to the newsletter boom, a new reality became clear. People were writing long elsewhere and then coming to Twitter to share their work and for the conversation surrounding all those words. Like, took you long enough to realize this, Twitter? Like, what? Okay.
I mean, they're busy. Like, they're busy because they may be bought by a madman soon. So I don't know. They're dealing with a lot of stuff. But yeah, Twitter also launched Review, or they bought Review, the newsletter company, a couple years ago, and now they're like fully integrating that into Twitter as well.
And they're calling it Twitter Right. They're making a new Twitter profile, calling it Twitter Right. And putting review
anything you write online, be it newsletters or blogs or little tweets or like thoughts about your dinner, they want to own that entire platform. So it all does kind of connect. So sure, I don't blame them for doing it. But what do you think?
I'm very curious about how much of this has to do with them wanting to own a cut of the content you publish, because if you think about how many like crazy tweet thread stories have been turned into movies so far, I feel like, I don't know. I want to be very careful when I read the terms and conditions is what I'm saying. But I am excited to start writing longer on Twitter. I usually I'm like, I want to start a blog, but I guess I can't
just start a blog. First of all, you blog for a living, but you can't just start a blog.
I know, and I have started. I just haven't got around to writing on it.
I think that's it. Like Medium and Twitter kind of are just trying to solve this like base level. I will call it millennial angst in terms of doing anything productive. Sometimes like, I know I should do this. I know I should open up all my email. I know I should look at my
side
bills.
hustle. It's not my main hustle.
It's so hard. It's hard to do anything basic. And hey, the world is crushing and on fire. So I totally get it. Another thing you want to note, Sherlyn, like around this, is Twitter's reviving its developer conference after 7 years, and I think that's actually really important. But first off, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's been long enough that I'm like, they had a developer conference. That's
I forgot. I totally forgot.
It's called Chirp, which chirpa cheap, but okay. And it's gonna happen in San Francisco, November 6th this year, I believe.
It should just be called Tweet Meet, but okay, yeah.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
But I think the argument a lot of people have had about Twitter for a while is that they have not been kind to developers and third parties who want to use Twitter data, right? A lot of Twitter apps were basically locked out when they changed their APIs. They don't want Twitter wanted to own its stuff for so long that they killed off any developer interest. And now they're like, hey, it turns out we need your help if we want to create a thriving platform, an open internet. Like, we help us out, guys. Build some apps, use our data, please make us more valuable. I think it is very important to note that this is coming after a point where Twitter needs to do more.
And listen to more people, maybe, right? Like, I feel like some of his launches earlier, I will never forget that Fleets launched without voice captioning and that sort of thing. So
simple things. Notable that Ben is mentioning, like, notable this is happening after Jack left, and Jack Dorsey, like, certainly when he came on and as the driving, creator behind Twitter and the driving person in charge, I think he wanted the company to play less with everybody else. So they kind of want to go the Facebook route, whereas I think a lot of us say, like, Twitter, I like Twitter as a platform. Twitter is my favorite social network, but it's best used as like a data pipe for the internet that everybody can tap into, that everybody can make use of. So maybe we'll see more of that. We shall see.
Is Parag still the CEO? Because I could swear I saw that Parag stepped down. Parag Agrawal.
I mean,
maybe I dreamed it.
Yeah, they announced things. Yeah, they announced, like, if Elon ends up buying it, like, things will change. Like, I believe that was the whole thing.
Okay.
But
all right,
they're in a weird limbo right now. So who knows? Sherlyn, you want to talk about nothing because
I never want to talk about anything. I want to always talk about nothing. No, I'm very good at talking about nothing. Nothing is that brand. Remember that, like, former co-founder of OnePlus, whatever, Carl Pei, started after leaving OnePlus, and they've been teasing up their first phone called the Nothing Phone 1 for a while. We've seen the pictures of them. We talked about them last week, but we found out this week that the Nothing Phone is not going to be coming to the US.
Surprise. Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm sure none of us were surprised, but if we've been hyping it up and you in the US are like, I want to buy one, I am sorry, you might have to travel to get it or find another way about it.
Don't spend your money on literally anything else. Just
this is going to be a first gen product, and your longtime listeners and viewers of this show know that we do not recommend you buy first gen anything. So I'm not surprised. I'm not disappointed. This is going to be essential. Well, it's not even going to be like the essential phone either. The essential phone, I feel like, had more of a hook going for it, but there you go. Yeah, I just know some people were hype about.
Can we just stop talking about the phone? We will just never talk about this phone again now, since we can't.
Never talk about nothing ever again. We'll see.
Nothing again. Let's move on to what we're working on. I want to quickly mention I visited an AT&T emergency response site here in Georgia. I actually got to do some on the ground reporting a couple weeks ago to talk about like how they're preparing for emergency responses, things like wildfires, places where they just need to drop down connectivity. So I'm working on a story around that, and I think it's gonna be really cool because if you search AT&T emergency response Engadget, you'll get a story from like 2008 written by Nilay Patel. So we have covered this stuff before. It's been a while, and also it's really cool to see like how these companies are changing and adopting. Like 4G didn't exist in 2008, LTE didn't exist back then, so things have changed quite a bit. So I'm hoping to get a story about that soon. What are you up to, Sherlyn?
I have been writing a few guides in addition to doing that background stuff that I was talking about. No, it's going to be a nice, hopefully fingers crossed, a nice slow summer. I am hopefully then going to be able to have time to do some more like deeper dive stories that I love to do, that like my journalism blood's boiling, which is great. And yeah, that's it. We like to do around this time, we like to do around Engadget as well. And so speaking of guides, Nicole Lee from the team has published the Guide to Smart Displays. If you've been wondering how or like what you should look out for when you're buying a smart display, you can check it out. I will caution any of you Apple people that there is no Apple smart display. These are all Amazon or Google branded.
You could get a HomePod and you could like tape an iPad to it. That's a
iPad,
smart
yeah,
display.
that's your smart display, yeah.
That's an Apple smart display.
So you can go check that out. Devendra, you have
Mhm.
something to shout out as well.
Yeah, shouting out our TikTok channel. If you,
Yes.
everyone's watching TikTok these days, and Engadget is on TikTok. I just did a TikTok about the MacBook Pro. Sherlyn, you've done a bunch about you having too many devices and fun things like that. So
well, that and the MacBook Air, yeah,
and the MacBook Air. You shot some footage yourself on TikTok. So I think it's a fun platform. I spend some time with my daughter because she likes the short videos there. I think it's worth checking out. Follow us if you're using TikTok. I also know that they're in the news about data leaks going back to China and whatnot. So hey, we are paying attention to all that stuff. It's hard to trust any of these social media companies, but in terms of a product I actually like using, I would say TikTok is at least there. I like the videos. Check us out on TikTok if you're using it. Let's move on to our picks for the week. Our pop culture picks. Sherlyn, what do you got?
I went back into my repository of like recs that I save. I'm like, I have a long list for weeks when I don't have anything to recommend, because recently I've just been rewatching Game of Thrones. It's weird. Anyway, my recommendation from a while back is Making Fun. It's a TV show on Netflix. I don't know if you've heard of it, Devendra.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Is this like reality-ish series of these like grumpy old men who are very skilled at woodworking or like just making things, right? But then they the twist is that they every week choose a proposal from a bunch of kids and they make the thing. So it's the start of every episode. You've got a bunch of kids coming in with like ideas of what they want the team to make, and they pitch it. They're like, oh, I want to make a unicorn that flies, but it also poops or something. Like, it's just kids being kids. So the first episode is not a spoiler or anything to say that what they did was build a giant T-Rex that spits out tacos.
I heard about the show, and I hear the adults hate the kids. Like
they do. Well, that's the shtick, right? The shtick is that they hate this. And the entire time they're just like, these dumbass like little cretins or whatever are making us do this thing. And then the kids will like ring in at the middle of the project, be like, no, we want you to add a toilet to the taco pooping dinosaur because we need to poop when we eat tacos. Apparently, I don't know, but it's fun to like
kids love things that poop. Yeah,
it's a combination of like whimsy with the kids and like the grumpy old guys building the stuff, but they're like so incredibly skilled. Like, I'm in the zone where I'm like trying to learn more about construction for some reason. So I'm like, all right, I know what this plane machine does. I don't know what they're called.
You could take actual woodworking lessons and stuff. Like they do that all over the place. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that out.
Yeah.
I'm going to highlight a couple of things. If you talk to anybody who plays games right now, everybody's talking about Neon White, which is a cool new kind of like a first-person shooter / puzzle / like speed run game. It is sort of like everybody distilled. They distilled the cool 90s anime stuff. It is about people people who are cast to hell, who are brought to heaven to defeat demons that are trying to destroy the kingdom of heaven. And it's also like has Steve Bloom, the voice of Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop. Like, your character is voiced by him. Lots of great voice acting, lots of great anime character work. It is a cool, fun game. It just feels good to play. So when I need to like rest my brain for a little, I can hop into this game, do a couple levels. The levels are really short. They're like 30 to 45 seconds. And the whole point of it is that you try to do it until you're faster and faster and try to be the fastest in the world. I think it's a lot of fun. I love the vibe. I love the voice acting and the writing. It is what I would call an anime-ass anime game. So, very anime. Neon White is great. I'm also watching Irma Vep on HBO, which is, hey, I don't know if anybody's going to listen to me here, but I love the French director Olivier Assayas. And this is sort of like a redo, not quite remake. It is like a reconsidering of a movie he made in the 90s, also called Irma Vep. And this show is all about a kind of like a movie star played by Alicia Vikander, and she is just in the process of making a TV show called Irma Vep. It is a remake of a classic like silent film, Les Vampires. So Alicia Vikander is great. This is just like a cool thing of seeing people.
Oh, this
be in
is
France.
very meta. I got so confused.
It is a show about her as a movie star. It's also a show about a director trying to remake Irma Vep while this director is remaking Irma Vep again. It is very, very meta. It is really fun. If you want to see people just like bounce around France and, you know, do fun movie industry stuff, I think it's worth watching. That's Irma Vep. It's on HBO Max. So that's what I've got for this week. I think you can take us out, Sherlyn.
All right. Well, that's it for the episode, everyone. Thank you as always for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our very own Terrence O'Brien. You can find the podcast is produced by Ben Elman. You can find Devindra online at
Devindra on Twitter, and I chat about movies and TV at the Filmcast podcast at thefilmcast.com.
If you want to tell me the million reasons you want to get the Nothing phone, you can send them to me. I'm at Sherlyn Lowe on Twitter. Email us your thoughts at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review, please, on iTunes, and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts.
Woo!
Well, we're done.
Yay.
And we're going to be sticking around to chat with the chat with the audience. And so I just saw a really good comment just come in. So Sungchan Park says, "Hi, I'm watching from Melbourne, Australia. I was really disappointed watching your M2 MacBook Pro 13-inch review. You had strong negative opinions on the touch bar, but in some, or still many users love it. Love the touch bar.
Find me those users.
Sungchan, tell me what you use the touch bar for.
What do you use it for?
We would love to hear what you use the touch bar for.
You can't have an opinion without somebody having the alternating opinion. So, you know, I fully hate this thing because I have been using computers forever. I've been reviewing computers for over a decade. So it's like the value that thing brought to me and other users, I didn't quite see it. But if you dig it, tell us why. Yeah.
Ooh.
Any other questions?
Excuse me. I mean, dude named Charlie was talking about what the optimal length for TikToks were. I just eyeballed it, and like you can do like 2 to 3 minute or more videos.
Don't go long.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
The best
30 the minute.
Do,
yeah.
Like 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds to a minute. Find a niche, although I don't like the idea that like some people are like, oh well, you know, I did these 2 videos and they did well, and so like that's just going to be my entire output now. But of course, like if you haven't been on TikTok, if you haven't watched like what's available on TikTok, lurk more. Remember that old internet phrase, old internet adage.
It
lurk
is a
little more and figure
it's a good
out
platform to lurk on. Yeah.
But also it helps you a lot in figuring out how to speak to audiences and how people expect to be spoken to.
Yeah. After I made that TikTok, I was like, I got to invest in an iPhone stand because I need to be able to put my phone flat somewhere, and also like a better way to get audio because the phone audio is not great if you're not like right in front of it. So, you know, stuff like that. The tiny microphone, which is a funny aesthetic that I'm seeing in a bunch of videos. Apparently that is a trending thing now too. It depends on the audience. Like I don't see, there's like a different sectors of TikTok. I don't see like teen TikTok. I don't see like what the kids are into. I do like animal stuff because my daughter liked animal stuff. And weirdly, we're getting like cool building stuff. There's like this like carpenter or builder in China who just does these like elaborate things, like building a water fountain. I'm building a small dam in this river. And my daughter just loves to watch him work. She's like, that's cool. I want to build things like that.
Our live stream producer Julio had a point, which is that the news about Meta not taking a cut until 2024, the commission thing, reminded Julio of when they started doing live streams on Facebook, and Facebook had to pay like brands to like put out video content. Remember that? And then now they didn't do that. I feel like, Julio, do you want to elaborate on that?
No, there's not much to say aside from the fact that they stopped, and then the content obviously also stopped flowing through the site. And it just died down. And then it seemed like they just moved away from the whole idea of really pushing live video that was well produced and leaned over towards vertical video and, you know, trying to catch up on TikTok and stuff and so on.
We catch up on Snap back then, right? Like back then they were like catching up with Snap. Now Snap's like, Snap's really, TikTok is what killed Snap, I want to say. I feel like
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like,
feel like
Facebook couldn't kill Snap.
Twitter should be kicking themselves because Twitter had like this beautiful thing in Vine, and Vine ended up getting that platform. It's like people like, oh, I could play with this stuff. I could do remix videos. I could like share
Yep.
stuff, and Twitter just let it die because Twitter was run by idiots for the last decade. So
Yeah.
you know, they
Like
could have done it.
they had a hold on the same kind of cultural zeitgeist as TikTok.
Yeah.
And they could have grown it a little bit. They could have trended in the direction of TikTok and gone for more than 6 seconds, because
I think
God,
the main
the
thing.
6-second videos, now that I'm looking back on them, you needed a little bit more time.
I like a short TikTok. Like I like a sweet and simple thing too. But
Oh yeah,
the main thing is ByteDance was like, huh, that's interesting. That's a good idea. Let's pour a ton of money into that idea because Twitter let it go. And also let's bundle in remixing, which I think is the sort of like cultural language of the internet. You know, like just let people easily remix and talk to other people on TikTok videos. That was the key. Yeah.
So connecting what with what Julio said, let's remember that just about last year and a few months, it was like finally concretely established in a court case that that Facebook knew their ad metrics were inflated, and that their video views were like drastically inflated. Let's remember how disastrous that was for the entire online content industry. It makes me so annoyed that there was the whole pivot to video in, what was it, like 2015, 2016, because they were like, oh, people are like watching these videos so much. No, when you are a technology monolith, you can just do whatever you want.
You could do whatever you want and then make the entire industry is kind of follow you because they want your sweet, you know, influence traffic or your money too in some cases. I'm still annoyed about that. I will never forgive Facebook for that because people lost jobs. Like entire publications were kind of destroyed because of that move.
So I will never trust another platform when they say like our metrics are great.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I think I didn't see a lot of other like big questions. I know that Ruindick brought up that Carl Pay said the phone one is they might start selling it with an invite system.
We're not talking about that. It doesn't exist anymore. Does not exist.
Well, yeah,
We're
sure.
not
But
talking
they
about
also that's what they did initially with OnePlus. I don't know that it went
that's
very
what
well
OnePlus
for
did.
them. Yeah.
Give me something new, Carl Pay. Losing my patience.
Poor Carl Pay. Just trying to live.
The lights are so cool, though. I like the lights a lot. I want to see more.
It's fine.
It's probably gonna be integrated into more like foldables. At least like some kind of notification light, not like the full nothing.
You need like flat LEDs
array
that like maybe vibrated or something. Like you can have.
We're talking about the peak bar in the Surface Duo 2 at this point, right? Like the
I like
screen in between. But I mean, no, it doesn't. Like it's kind of useless when you're limited to just a few colors. I don't know. I personally don't think that flashing lights, other than like a mild notification LED, is really that useful.
Yeah. I think we're good. Folks.
I think we're.
Thank you all for joining us. Thanks to Cherie again for joining us and having a great chat. So hope to have her back soon.
Yes.
I think we're good, folks. Check us out next week. So hopefully there will be some actual tech news as well. I can't wait to review the MacBook Air. That is still, we don't know when that is coming, sometime in July. So I'm going to be out for all of August. So hopefully that'll land in time for that. I think we're good, folks. Ben, you can take us out.
Yeah, I was just really surprised by this headline that I just saw saying FDA bans Juul e-cigarettes as government pursues broader crackdown on nicotine products.
Was it confirmed? Because yesterday was like FDA may ban Juul.
This is a CNBC article from 23 minutes ago.
Dev is being chatted in conf.
I see. That's good. We should. I kept it out of the story because we were waiting for the news. This is very dumb.
Fine.
Look, we can talk about it next week.
We can talk about it.
This is such a dumb move. Such a dumb move. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, a little piece of weird breaking news that needs to be fully chewed through. But thanks to everybody for sticking around. The chat is what makes the show, as always. The video is brought to you by our video team, Julio Barrientos and Luke Brooks. If you stuck around this long, you know that algorithms rule our lives, so rate us 5 stars on iTunes, rate us whatever highest rating possible on Google Podcasts, tell a couple of friends, download the episode if you already watched the live stream. We'll see you next week.
Good night, folks. Later.
Bye.